Hello and thank you for coming. My name is Jerry Pico and I've been a coach and team effectiveness facilitator for the last 20 years. And one of the tools that I use most often in helping teams work together a little bit more effectively is a personality assessment tool called Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. The MBTI, or Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, is one of the most widely used personality assessment tools in the world. And the reason that I think it's really great as a team effectiveness tool is because it gives people a common understanding and language to talk about their differences and their similarities. And what it does is it measures people's personalities on 4 dimensions: where they direct their energy to and where they get their energy from, how they gather and process information, how they make decisions, and what their general orientation towards how they organize their life is. And on each of these dimensions, or continuums, there's a pair of opposing preferences, or a dichotomy. And for energy, it would be extroversion, introversion; for information, sensing and intuition; for decision-making, thinking and feeling; and for life orientation, it's judging and perceiving. Each of these preferences has a 1-letter abbreviation, which is usually the first letter of the word, except for intuition because the I is taken already and we use N. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the dimensions. So when we talk about energy, we talk about how people get energized and where they direct their energy to. So people who have a preference for extroversion like to direct their energy to the outer world, and they get energized by input or stimulus from the outer world, whereas people who have a preference for introversion like to go inside to get energized, and they like to direct their energy internally. So an example of what that looks like is that people who have a preference for extroversion would go to a networking event and feel energized afterwards, whereas those same people who have a preference for, or people who have a preference for introversion, go to the same event and they would feel drained afterwards. They could both socialize equally as well, but what we're looking at is what their energy level is like afterwards. Conversely, an extrovert may sit alone and read a book and their energy level would go down. It could be a relaxing, enjoyable experience, but their energy level will go down. Whereas if an introvert did that, their energy level would go up. So it's all about not how well people can do things, it's about how their energy is after they do them. When we look at information gathering, we talk about basically 2 different types of people in the way they deal with information. People who have a preference for sensing like to use their 5 senses and to deal with information, and prefer information that's very tactile, very tangible, something they can see, feel, touch, and it should be very detail-oriented, whereas people who have a preference for intuition really like dealing with abstraction, big picture, conceptual information. And as you can imagine, there's probably a lot of communication gaps and difficulties when these kind of people talk to each other. This is why the Myers-Briggs is a great tool. Understanding this can help the information flow go better. When we talk about decision-making, we're talking about with thinking, people have a preference for thinking like to make decisions objectively based on objective data and applying principles or rules equally across the board, whereas people who have a preference for feeling like to make decisions that are more subjective and people-focused, and they may be willing to bend the rules to accommodate a certain person's situation. And then finally, when we talk about orientation, we're looking at how people like to organize their lives. People who have a preference for judging like lives that are very planned and structured and organized. They like meeting deadlines, they like having goals and achieving those goals, checking off those boxes. Whereas people who have a preference for perceiving like to lead their lives a little bit more flexible and fluid. They like to think of themselves as being very spontaneous, and they are. And for them, goals are important, but the journey or the process of getting to the goal is the most important thing. So that's a brief overview of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator system, and I thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Have a great day.